Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening.
Do you know if Rita's going to be here?
She is not. Yeah,
Okay.
she can't make it tonight. Since everybody else is present and it is now 7 o'clock, I'll call this meeting of the CPC to order. We are all participating remotely. Elaine Palaio, Matteo Pangallo, Alan Hansen, Beth Wilson, Henry Geddes, Cliff Reed, all dialing in from remote locations around town or wherever you might happen to be. First item on the agenda for today is the review and vote on the minutes of October 26, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All right, seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. Palaio,
Aye.
Hansen,
Aye.
Reed,
Abstain. I was not able to attend.
Geddes,
Aye.
Wilson,
Abstain. Also, I wasn't there.
Pangallo, aye. All right. Next item on our agenda is questions from potential grant applicants. Is any of you, are any of you intending to apply for a CPA grant? No, so the only person that I have heard from, I believe you all, hopefully you saw the email as well, from Graham Sefton, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yep.
Was about upgrading and blazing and adding signage on an existing trail that connects from Town Hall to the New England National Trail down by Town Farm Road. He's not here to ask his questions about it though, so
Thought he was going to be.
yeah, I don't know if perhaps somebody just came into the waiting room. Hello. Yes. Cliff?
I did talk to Graham earlier and he knew it was 7 o'clock and was planning to attend. So we hope
Sorry,
shortly.
I don't mean to crush, but we're trying to have the school committee meeting and no one has let us in. So if anyone here knows a way to get a hold of Becky Torres or Grace.
Yes, I can do that for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
While Elaine does that, Graham has joined us. So we are on item 2 of the agenda now. So we are welcoming questions from potential applicants about the CPA process and its restrictions. Did you, Graham, did you have any questions for us?
I just turned the video on, but I just turned the audio on, so I didn't hear what you might have said, but I heard you ask questions. Yeah, am I up first, am I?
Yes.
You're the one and only.
Well, yeah, so as I bumped into Cliff and he already knows that, around the middle of the center of town, doesn't have much of the way of being able to walk except on busy roads. And I every once a year I seem to be pulling a deer tick off myself, out of my engorged sort of thing. So I'm very aware when I walk in the woods every day, and it seems like trails need to be about 3 feet wide, I think, to make it so you're not brushing up against scrub. So the outline of what I would propose is to make a town. Hello, everyone. I didn't say that at the beginning. The outline of what I would like to know if it works for the CPA coverage is to make to probably spend about $5,000. I worked out a budget of approximately to make there's a trail that goes from the town hall down across townland, I should say, which is a bunch of skinny blocks that go all the way down to what has recently been acquired by the DCR. And so there's contiguous town and DCR property that gets you all the way down to Town Farm Road, which and there's kind of a scrubby trail for most of that. And it just seemed like a trail that could be, I walked it at the beginning of this week. It seemed like if that was made a trail that was 3 feet wide, that's under 3 feet wide is the constraint of the wetlands without triggering things. And what's the term? It is, I looked it up today. I couldn't get on a Merriam Defont, so I just looked up an unpaved pedestrian walkway for public access less than 3 feet wide. So, that can be 35 inches, I'm sure. And it obviously it differs to the Massachusetts wetland thing differs to the town's bylaws of the Conservation Commission. So yeah, is making a trail and spending about $5,000. There's a bunch of volunteers who are willing to organize a couple of summer studenty sort of people for 2 weeks, which is probably what it would take to put up signage, to put blazes on trees, to make it clear, that of what it is, and that it is a public access sort of a thing. Parking in the parking lot at the town hall, I can't imagine it's ever going to fill up with walkers. So is that something that the CPA would even sponsor?
So I mean, I'll sort of defer to the rest of the committee on this, particularly Elaine, I think, representing the Recreation Committee. I will say, so the way this process works is the committee would consider a determination of eligibility at its December meeting to decide whether or not this falls within the allowable restrictions of the CPA. If you go to the Community Preservation website, and actually I'll pull this up right now on the share screen so you can see what I'm looking at. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the this would be under presumably the recreation category, right? And because it's an existing trail that would be made usable in a new way, it would be rehabilitation, right? And that would, in my understanding of the CPA at least, qualify as an allowable use of it, of CPA funding. So I think it sounds like the kind of thing. I mean, in fact, community preservation organization specifically identifies the maintenance of existing trails as an allowable use of CPA funds. I think the questions, going forward from that you would want to address in the grant application in February is thinking about, partnering with the Recreation Committee or somebody else to sponsor a warrant article. And then,
Yep.
This question of the funding amount. In the past, the CPC has really prioritized grant applications that have some kind of not matching, but some kind of other leveraged funding involved. And that includes, funding in the form of in-kind labor, like volunteer labor and things like that help offset costs. So those are things that you would want to consider. I don't know if you've taken a look at the determination of eligibility form or the grant application form, but those things have the budget charts where you would break out the cost for those items.
No.
That's my sense of it. I would love to hear from anybody else in the committee about their views.
I have two issues. One would be who actually owns the property? Is it the town's property? Is it conservation property? Who has the ownership of it? And the second would be, as Mateo said, you really probably should go through the Recreation Committee and let's see, our meeting is next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. I'm pretty sure it's next Tuesday, and ask the Recreation Committee if we're willing to sponsor it and to help you write the determination of eligibility.
Sure. Next Tuesday, 4 p.m.
I believe that's when it is.
I can look it up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the town calendar.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It is the GIS map that comes up on the town website.
No,
It
it's Tuesday
says
the 28th. It's the 28th, sorry.
28th. Okay. Yeah. To answer your question, Elaine, the town GIS map that comes up on the town website identifies those parcels that the trail seems to run on as town property. So, and then you get it's even already updated. The GIS map is updated to show that the land below that is owned by DCR. So, yeah. So it seems like that piece is, and then it would, I realize, one would have to walk it then with whoever wanted in the Conservation Commission wanted to come to, because there might be some sections of the existing trail that they wanted moved sideways, 20 feet, whatever. So I haven't advanced that far, but there are other volunteers. And so Mateo, to address what you said, the contribution would be in kind, because we would figure that that it would be 2 students, 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they'd be well supervised by a different volunteer each day. But that's not a that's there's a town volunteer contribution, so that would be that effort to do that.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from members of the committee or responses to Graham's questions? Henry?
This question came up once before when there was a trail being proposed for lot 032 here on the end of Baker Road and Pelham Hill Road. It's definitely eligible. The question, we didn't do it because part of the trail would have gone on private property. But this is not private. None of this is private property. I looked on the map and it looks fine. So I don't see a reason why this shouldn't be seriously considered.
Elaine, I guess I would bring it to the to your committee, but a mechanism. Obviously, we wouldn't want to have this 2 weeks of like all this paperwork of how to pay wages to students. So I know because the highway department once hired my son for a couple of weeks summer work I did check in with the highway superintendent to ask whether, if this was approved by the town, whether his department could do the paperwork of the payroll. So he
But
said,
you're not talking about paying the students, are you?
oh, absolutely, yeah. This
Oh.
is why the budget is
Oh, I see.
$5,000.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, there
Okay.
may, someone said, there are possibilities of TerraCore people being plugged in, but my first assumption is it would be paid summer students, about 2 weeks. So,
Got it.
yeah. Sorry, Beth, did I cut you off? I saw your frame looked like it was about to ask a question. No?
Me?
Oh, yeah. I saw it light up
Yeah.
before.
I was just gonna say, so I'm on the Conservation Commission, so it's great that you're talking, trying to get in touch with Miriam. And I guess, my only concern would be include in the budget in case you do need to submit some kind of application, and there's a fee and the abutter notification and stuff like that. So you just want to figure that out. But I think having a Concom member walk the trail and just sort of determine what needs to be done is basically the first step.
Yeah.
Henry, you had a question earlier?
Yeah. Hi, Graham.
Hey there, Henry.
How are you? No, I'm just curious. The 5,000 would go towards signage and clearing the trail. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, if student employee, when I worked at UMass, I didn't always, but I often had student employees. So, I would be giving them they would be using weed whackers. If the project was approved, the highway superintendent said it would be okay to use the things that he lets students use in the summertime, weed whackers, loppers, any of the brush saws, things that he already has in his inventory. But I'd have a little miscellaneous money in there just in case any of it needs to be repaired or replaced or whatever. So if it didn't get spent, then it wouldn't. If it wasn't needed, then I just wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to leave him carrying water for something that wasn't really his project, or something that he's kindly involved in. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Sorry, go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah,
No,
I have
go ahead.
no other question. Yeah, Cliff.
So I know when we had spoken about this before, when you first floated the idea, we had a brief discussion about it, and asking about the ownership of land, and you had mentioned that it's the corridor is town-owned property, but then once it hits town farm, where is there need for trail maintenance on DCR property, or is it all on town?
Well, not much of it would. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Somehow or other, I guess I need a contact with DCR to ask whether we can put up signage. I mean, can we say down on Old Farm Road, Town Farm Road, whether we can have a sign on their stuff pointing people up to the town hall, and put blazers on a trail on their property. I haven't found anyone on DCR who would tell me that. I haven't tried that yet. So
yeah. So just if it is on DCR property, it's existing trail, as you say, that so it's not like creating a new trail and going through that, but it would be work and potentially putting up a sign or blazing and trail upgrade. And so with that, it's just wanted to make sure that the contact approval is received from DCR's standpoint. And
yeah, do you have any idea? Is there like a Department of DCR community outreach or something? I don't know what, anyone know anything about DCR?
I might know a few things about them, so.
Yeah. If
Having
we're standing in a,
so-
if we're standing in a parking lot on Saturday together, then you can give me some tips. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we can chat. Yes,
yeah.
So I can certainly give you the folks to approach about that and or I can help try to facilitate that. But just making sure that everything is clear and upfront if it does involve any sort of work on DCR.
Yep. It would, yeah, and then it's whether the trail swings onto Town Farm Road Lane. I think it's a discontinued road that runs down the hill. Yeah, okay, which is in reasonable shape, but it's so some of it is on discontinued road as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, and just to cover the other thing, just that I almost said, or I got to it, that the students would have vests and hearing protection if they're using weed whackers and eye protection, so safety glasses don't cost much, and I'd give them my safety spiel at the beginning of each week, I reckon. You don't want anyone to do something stupid. You hope they won't. So, anyhow, some stupid things can be covered, some things can't. Okay, so I'll figure to turn up. Elaine, I'll turn up at that meeting on the Tuesday 28th, and
You should let Barbara Bigelow know.
Barbara Bigelow. Okay,
She's
yeah.
our chair.
Barbara Bigelow. Does she have an email on the
It would be
website?
the rec committee, but yeah, she has an email there.
Okay, very good. Okay, I will. I'll send that to her tomorrow just to
Mhm.
give her a heads up. Thank you. No.
Yeah.
And I would also encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to look at the determination of eligibility in the grant application form to make sure you're ready to fill out those parts, and the community preservation plan to make sure that your application directly addresses, how this project is advisable based on the community preservation goals. Again, to me, it sounds that way, but again, we're going to be looking at advisability, but also feasibility, financially and so forth, about whether what you plan to do in the budget for it meets the outcome.
And these forms are on the CPC.
They're all on the CPC website. Yep. So if you go to shutesbury.org, community_preservation.
And is there more than one form there that I have to fill in?
So the first deadline is December 14th December 4th for the determination of eligibility. And that is just sort of for us to assess whether or not, objectively speaking, this meets the requirements of the statute and case law, to save you time later on. And then February 5th is the full grant application.
Okay.
4 pages.
Okay.
Full grant application is by February 5th.
Yeah, because I'm not likely to have done everything by December the 4th. But okay, that's
the December 4th form is like a page and a half, and
it's
just the bare bones. How does this fit under the CPA's restrictions?
No problem. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope this meets gets over all the hurdles. So okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm out of here then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Graham.
See ya.
Are there other questions from potential CPA applicants? Seeing no other questions, I'll move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is continuing our discussion about the Affordable Housing Trust idea. Rita is not able to make it tonight, and she was, I think, Elaine, you and Rita were both talking about looking into it. I don't know if you have anything to add right now, if you'd prefer to wait for her.
The only thing I have to add is that there is very little information about how many homes there actually are. that are rentals. I talked to the assessors and the town clerk. They have approximate numbers. The town clerk had approximate numbers, but nothing definite. And the assessors really had nothing that they could offer us as to how many rental properties there actually are. So I thought I would go to the state website and just use census data, but it's not very good. So I don't know how we stand with that, what portion of the town is actual rental property. Leslie Bracebridge was the one of the assessor who answered me, and she said that after they get finished with all their what did she say? Setting the tax rate. And once they're done with that, we have a principal assessor who is part-time and only doing this out of the goodness of his heart for some reason. It's a volunteer. So once he set the tax rate, she said she would try to see if he could help direct me somewhere to see how many rental properties there actually are in town. So I don't know.
Yeah, so just for the benefit of Cliff and Beth, this is a continuation of the discussion we had at the last meeting about, you know, the Shutesbury CPC has had one affordable housing project in its entire existence, not because there isn't a will to do it, but because it costs a lot of money, and compared to some of our neighboring communities, we just don't have the funding. And one of the solutions that we've been talking about is looking into an affordable housing trust option, which would be taking CPA money, putting it into a separate trust fund that would be administered by an affordable housing committee, and used not for building affordable housing, which would be ideal, but we can't afford because it's just supremely expensive, but used for things like down payment assistance, rental assistance, programs like that. And we've been looking at, Leverett has a program like this they've had for a long time as a kind of model for it, but we're still in the sort of information gathering stages about what that might look like.
But last month when Ken was here, he did say that their program is there, but it is kind of defunct, basically because their houses are too expensive, and they had a $250,000 cap on the cost of a house, and they don't have any properties that would qualify.
Yeah.
So, you know, even though they have one, it's not really working.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they have the cap. I think part of the problem is the cap, right? Like that cap is a function of a outdated notion of the housing market, that it just doesn't exist anymore. And, you know, as I said at the previous meeting, I would love for us to find a way to provide a little bit of assistance to lots of people, as opposed to building one house that serves just one family. But, you know, that said, the housing market in Shutesbury is not exactly booming, whether you're talking about renting or buying. And so we're still not going to be serving a lot of people. But the truth is, we are still mandated by the CPA statute to set aside a certain amount of money for housing each year. That money is just kind of sitting there. And, you know, I guess the choice that faces us is, do we want to try to set up something that's going to help a couple of people every few years, or help one person every 12 years?
Right.
But yeah, and I would hopefully we can find a way to do this that doesn't involve the CPC taking on these applications, right? Like the way Leverett has it set up, they have a separate committee that handles it, and it's administered by was it the Franklin forget the name,
Franklin County,
Franklin Housing something.
Yeah.
And
County Housing Authority. Yep.
yeah, and the only role that the CPC plays is when that trust asks for additional funding replenishments every whatever number of years.
Mhm.
Well,
Be continued.
To be continued. I don't know. Are there any thoughts, other thoughts or
But,
questions?
but is there a way to do this this year? I mean, because we don't want people applying. I mean, we would have to create a affordable housing trust committee. And would we give them money? Would we, I guess I don't see how we would do it in any year that would be feasible unless we handed them the money and said, you use it as you see fit.
So I guess this is a question that, well, it's kind of a hard question to pose to Lever because of the timing of when they did theirs. But my sense of it, you could ask Rita about this when she looks into it some more, is that the select board or whoever is empowered to do this would introduce a warrant article to create a new committee bylaw, right, for the town. And then that committee would apply to the CPA for funding. I mean, we're talking about a multi-year process. We're talking about something that's not going to happen right now, particularly given our own timeline. I mean, we're coming up really quickly on these dates, right?
Right.
But I think that the Affordable Housing Committee needs to pre-exist the request for the trust, because what happens, I mean, I don't think it's likely, but right, what happens if you create a trust and then you don't create a bylaw and a committee to administer and to run that trust fund? Then that money is just, I don't know what happens to it, right? That would be my gut instinct sense of it.
So then the earliest would maybe be if we could get something on the warrant for next spring for like you're saying, a establishment of a committee and a bylaw and all that.
Yeah, I think if the sense that we give to the select board is that we would like to see this happen, we would like to see this as a use of a way of prioritizing the committee's use of the CPA funds, then maybe we can get the select board to introduce that article for this spring. And then in 2 years, talk about how much funding are we going to give to that trust. But that's also based on whether or not we can find, the Franklin Housing Authority or somebody else to help administer it, because we're not going to find a committee of local volunteers to handle something like this. Though, as Elaine said, given Leverett's experience right now, it doesn't sound like there's a flood of applications, but there are a lot of sort of audit requirements. I mean, annual filing and things like that have to be done under state law. And that could be burdensome for a local, volunteer committee.
I feel like Shutesbury might have more rental properties than Leverett.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong.
I think I agree with you, Beth. I think we have quite a few, and some of them are rather low rental. And Henry, do you know much about Sirius? They have rental property there, don't they?
Fully aware of how they work it. They do rent out rooms in fairly large houses. So it's not like they're renting.
But is it like stable housing that they would rent out for long term?
I don't know the arrangement.
Okay.
There are houses, there are actually families in houses there. That is true. So it's both collective households and individual nuclear family units.
Okay, that was one place that I was thinking of. I was also thinking of the rental units that are on Leverett Road, right at the end of Pelham Hill Road. Those are small rental properties.
Yeah.
Well,
I think there's some I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say between Elaine's house and mine, there's a rental.
Oh, right. I forgot about that one.
There's one.
There are a number of duplexes, and not that
Right.
those are necessarily rentals, but I think a lot of them are.
Yeah, I think on Montague Road, there's those duplexes that are kind of up the hill on the north side of Montague Road, and some of them are owned and some of them are rented. And then when you kind of actually get down the hill, there's those, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a building, it's a round building. It has a number of units in it, and that too, it's either condos or rental units. I'm not sure.
On Montague Road?
Yeah. On Montague Road, you know, the S curve part of Montague Road, that kind of sketchy, really, the curvy, hilly
Yes.
section.
Yeah,
On the right, there's at least 3 big duplex buildings
mhm,
that are, I know there's some that are rented in there. I think there
Okay.
might be some condos that are owned, but there's also some that are rented.
okay,
I think, and this is kind of goes back to your point, Elaine, about Leverett's defunctness right now, or their committee or their trust. I also think that part of, I mean, it's important that we determine that there is a need for this,
mhm,
but at the same time, maybe by providing something like this, people who might not think of themselves as eligible for this kind of assistance, or who might not think of coming to Shutesbury because that kind of assistance is available, would start to look here.
yep, we
I
create the
don't-
need.
Yeah, and I don't want us to think like, well, because it isn't self-evident to us right now that the need exists, we therefore should not create this. Because otherwise we're just continuing to put that money aside in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, or the Community Housing Fund for the CPA. And that's great, but you know, that's now at $44,000. It's the highest of the 3
Mhm,
fund categories, because it just never gets used. And I feel like it would be better to have that money going into a place where maybe it only gets used every year, but that's, again, still better than being used every 11 years.
mhm. Yeah, I think we should continue looking at this, and hopefully Rita will have some more information for us.
Are there any other comments or
Sounds good.
questions? The next item on the agenda is a continuation of our discussion about holding meetings in person. This is a reflection of my frustration with the lack of a Zoom link the other month, which is the second or third time I think this had happened to us. I don't want to make this decision unilaterally. As I said at the previous meeting, it is far more convenient for me and the schedule of my family to be meeting via Zoom. And I know that there are probably other reasons why others might want to meet via Zoom, but I just wanted to take the temperature of the committee about whether or not it would be preferable to be meeting in person. And if you don't feel comfortable talking about it in the public meeting, you can send me an email with your personal whatever. But
Personally, I have strong feelings one way or the other. Doesn't, whatever is most convenient.
I know that for people with young families or any kind of families, that sometimes it's a lot easier to do it on Zoom. And I think that our committee is such that it's small enough and mostly non-controversial enough that our meetings can be attended on Zoom by, half a dozen people who would be able to come in. And I don't think we really need to do it in person, although I'd love to see all your faces.
Yeah, I'm flexible either way, but I guess I agree that it's not a committee where you're like reviewing big plans or anything like that, where it's actually would be helpful to be more in person, so.
Right. And we could do part of our meetings in person. I mean, it would be nice to have the meetings in February and March when we review applications to be in person and have people come and present to us in person and have hard copies of things. That's probably a good time to have in-person meetings, but otherwise, I really don't see that we lose anything being on Zoom.
Yeah, if we're not on Zoom, you'll miss out on the sound of my 8-year-old and my 11-year-old screaming at each other downstairs behind me.
Can't hear them.
I
Can't
don't
hear
hear
'em.
Okay, great.
In any case, I guess we would have quorums regardless. I mean, 6 of us I may not be able to make in-person meetings in February, but
We could do hybrid.
Mhm.
So that you could be here on Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, the hybrid would then sort of necessitate having a Zoom link, which was the
Oh,
impetus
right.
for my decision. That's it. I mean, what I've tried to do is like I've put our schedule up on the site at the start of the year, so it's not a surprise. And I try to put it up on my town government right after each meeting so that, we can try to get in there. Inevitably, we've come up against, the school committee or more important committees, but all right. Well, I guess we can table this discussion and see how things go in the future. Okay. Other business. I had just two other quick things. First, I don't know if any of you get the Community Preservation Coalition email updates. Stuart Saganar, who's the director of the Community Preservation Coalition, which is the nonprofit advocacy group for CPA communities in Massachusetts. He sent an email out like 10 minutes before our meeting with a pretty depressing update about the state match funding, which in the past, we get money from the state's Community Preservation Trust Fund, as well as our local surcharge. And in the past 7 out of the 10 years, that funding from the state has included both money from the Registry of Deeds fees, but then also surplus budget funding. And it sounds like this year there will be no surplus budget funding. And so the funding that we're going to get is, everybody is going to get, it sounds like it's going to be a lot less than it was last year or the year before and such. I'm not super concerned about it because, again, we don't have a lot of really big budget projects coming our way, but I just wanted to make the committee aware of that so that when you're looking at our report at the end of the year and you see that our state aid portion has dropped significantly, you don't think that there's something, we're not doing anything wrong. This is something apparently that is happening everywhere in the state.
Is this anticipated to be an ongoing thing or just a kind of this year and different than in past year, or no indication on that? So,
I mean, there's been a sequence of gloomy emails from Stuart Saganar over the past like 6 months or so about this entire process, the state budget. At the same time, they remain optimistic that this will turn around, but it's entirely dependent, I think, on state tax revenues. Again, it's not going to impede us from doing things like the kind of project we were just discussing about trails. The funding will be there for that. It just means that if we want to do something, for example, like an affordable housing trust, that larger chunk of annual revenue for our CPA budget it might be smaller than it has been, but I can't anticipate,
When do we find out what our sort of total CPA budget is for the year?
He said they will send out a full breakdown on how much each city and town received from this year's distribution as soon as it is available. Stay tuned. That is as specific as he got about it. I imagine with the budget process closed that it should be fairly soon. I would imagine within the month. And as soon as I hear from him, or from the town accountant, if she finds out beforehand, I'll let the committee know. Yeah, the only other item I had was there was a request for the annual report for different committees from Geneva Bickford. So I just compiled what we did last year in terms of the warrant articles, changes in the committee composition from last year, and sent that to her. So that is in. And
Wow, you're gonna win a prize that you got one of the first ones in.
don't want things like that sitting around. Emails piling up.
Yep.
Are there any other items of other business?
Nope.
All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a second?
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none. Leo,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Eddies.
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Gallo, aye. That's it, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know.
Have a good night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, yeah.
Same to you.